Good afternoon, everybody. This is John Farr, and welcome to the first official webinar of sunbizweekly.com. We are the only digital trade magazine in the canning industry. And let's see, we've now been, I think this is our 12th week, 11th or 12th week, so it's about 3 months. And already the audience that we have for it is wonderful, and we thank everybody for being an audience member of Sunbiz Weekly. We hope that we're delivering some content. I've got a couple speakers on here today that I'm going to introduce in a minute, and they're a couple of our regular columnists too, so that's kind of cool. But anyway, so today in this first webinar, which may seem like kind of a strange subject, but it is certainly something that many people in our industry are thinking quite a bit about. Should I stay or should I go? And that is, should I have an exit plan for my tanning salon industry, or tanning salon business, I should say. And very honestly, with any business, you should be thinking about either transition, or it might even be exit plan or whatever. It doesn't matter what business it is. It may not be something you're looking to do for many years to come. And there are, of course, reasons why people are thinking about what I should do with my tanning business. And we're going to get into that in a bit here, and it's going to be open conversation with myself and my panelist. But first of all, it's like, why should I, when or why do I pull the plug? And it's kind of like the elephant in the living room, because there's a lot of people, I think, on the supply side that don't want to talk about this subject because they feel that it would be something that would cause you on this webinar to think about getting out of the business. And that's absolutely not what this is for. It's to address what everybody is thinking about already anyway. And so why would they be thinking that way? Well, of course, we're all looking at what the FDA is or is not going to do. There's a lot of unwarranted and I think very unfair press that's out there. I think we all feel in this industry that we have been, let's call it, picked on, and there are bigger industries than ours that are trying to take our business away, and that's very unfortunate. We haven't had all the good fortune that we need in trying to fight them off, but we know what the truth is. So the FDA, well, I guess, I don't know. I think that what everybody is talking about is we may lose the under 18 tanning. It's not something that we're happy about, but I think it was almost inevitable. It was going state by state, and so that may be what happens. Of course, it's some of the other stuff that the FDA might do that concerns us more. But I still feel, and I cling to, and I'll be asking my panelists here in a minute what they think, but I still feel that I don't think the government is going to put us out of business entirely, because there's just too many people that we employ, and I just can't see that happening. So one of the things we're talking about today is how to evaluate my business. So what is the value of your tanning salon business right now, and where could you go with it if you wanted to sell it? Like, next point is, who would buy my salons? Good question. And another question is, how do I handle current leases, or what are the alternatives to the business, and how do I increase the sell value of my salon? So those are some of the questions that we're going to be talking about today. But first, I want to introduce two gentlemen, at least I think they're gentlemen, that are veterans in this business, that have been around for, well, fortunately for them, not as many years as I've been around, because if they were, they'd be officially old farts. But so I want to introduce J.R. Homer and Brad Blair. J.R., are you there, sir?
I am. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being on.
Well, it's nice having you again, sir. I mean, people keep saying nice things about you in the exit polls, and so it just shows you what they know, J.R. They say nice things about you. But and Brad, good afternoon, Brad. How are you?
Yes, thank you for having me. Welcome. It's a pleasure.
You are so Mr. Hollywood there. I love the sunglasses, and that's really cool. And as a matter of fact, let's talk about Brad Blair, the owner of Pacific Tanning in Selden, New York. He started with one salon like everybody else, and last year successfully, I think it was, now did I get that wrong, Brad? Was it last year or the year before you opened your third salon?
Last year. It's only 1 year as of last month.
Oh, okay. All right. So I got lucky there. So now he's got his three salons, and in addition to his salons, Brad has created his own lotion line, and assorted products for sale, body decor line. And I know you've got the herbal stuff that for losing weight, and I forgot to put that on here, Brad, and I apologize for that. But people can see, and I think the thing about this is that, and I'll get into it after I introduce, give you a slide on JR, but I think the important thing is what I like both about Brad and JR is they haven't just sat around and accepted what the government will or will not give them. They've done some differentiation on their business. If you haven't had a chance, by the way, on JR, if you go on sunbiz.com, which is the weekly digital magazine, we're the only digital magazine. I'll talk some more about that in a minute. But you'll see, I believe, JR, we still have your video on there of the JR tour of your Robinson salon, do we not?
I'm not 100% sure. If it isn't, I can put it up there, or if people look, I can give people the link.
I think we do, because it's very impressive. So, but anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, awesome. I appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you.
No, it's really a very cool looking salon. But anyway, back to Brad. I've had the pleasure to work with Brad now over the last few years, and every once in a while I've given him some help, and he's been foolish enough to take it. And but he's done well. He probably didn't need my help. He's done well anyway. And I think one of the reasons Brad's a very creative guy, and he's a very assertive guy, and he likes to dress up. And I have to tell you, Brad, you made the mistake, my friend, of ever showing me that slide.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I got some of that are probably just as fun with JR, but I can't remember what the heck I did with it. But anyway, here's JR Homer, owner of Instant Tan in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. One in Robinson and one in Lebanon, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh. And JR has been in the business ridiculously too long. I think JR's father and I, Russ, are good friends from many, many years ago. And I think JR, you've been in the business, I think, when you were old enough where your face could reach the top of the counter.
Pretty much. Even before, actually.
Probably so. And JR, in terms of differentiating his business, if you get a chance, go on sunbiz.com, sunbizweekly.com, and you'll see the video. I'm pretty sure the video's on there, because he's got his Robinson salon is just fantastic. But he's also the creator of LevelTan, a handheld POS selling tool now being used by many salon owners. It is one of the coolest applications for working with the consumer, the customer, and also for tracking what his employees do. So very, very cool. And if you get a chance, I would take a look at LevelTan, because that is it's kind of like taking everything and putting it in the hands of your salespeople so they can present it to customers. But anyway, it's good to have you both here. And what I want to do also is mention sunbizweekly.com, and there you've got an office number, and there's the email number, and or the web address and my email. So you can look at that. I happen to be the publisher, but really, I don't really do a whole lot of it. We have John Ribner, and I should have had his picture on it. John was the former content editor at IST Magazine, and he is absolutely fantastic in what he does. And then we've got Carrie Larange, who does our graphics. She's super. And then we've got Jess, who does all of our website and digital stuff, and she's out of this world. So we've got a great team, and I'd like to have you all join us and become subscribers. Of course, the cost is nothing. But we're also happy to welcome to the Sun Business Weekly advertising family. The Universal Insurance Program company just signed up, and that is wonderful. Glad to have them, as well as all of our advertisers. And Jessica, if you're out there, and I'm going to try to take a shot, is it Athe or is it Athe? And my apologies if I've gotten it wrong. So if you want to put a note in the chat box, you can do that. So from a housekeeping point of view, if you get disconnected, just call back in on that number, or back in on that access code that you got. And then if you want to leave us a note in the chat box. The guys and I will react to it and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, whether it relates to this specific subject or any other. So, but let's go and chat a little bit about that elephant in the living room, like why are some salons have they left the business? I don't have an official count on what it is. I know, of course, that over the last 3-4 years there has been and not a complete exodus, but there's been a consolidation, and that's really consistent with any maturing retail business cycle. You get this kind of thing, it happens. JR's father and I went through that in the video rental business back years ago, when there was a time in 1990, I think it was, or 1992, there was more than 30,000 outlets in the United States renting videos. And as of course you know, everything is digital today, and so for a while there was a lot of consolidation and whatever. The nice thing about tanning is I don't think we ever have to worry about somebody getting a download on a tan. I'm not sure how that would ever happen, but there's reasons, of course, that some people have left, and the competition has gotten crazy. And we were talking right before we got on the air, Brad and I were chatting about, and JR, that this is not the same business that, and since we're all, salty veterans, all three of us are, we remember back when the business was easy and you didn't have to do a whole lot to make a bunch of money. I mean, JR, I know you remember those times when the Smart Tan conventions were huge, and
yeah, I certainly can. It was used to be packed. It used to actually take a couple of days to see the entire show floor. Now you can kind of walk around the show floor in a few hours and kind of catch everything.
Oh yeah.
Kind of shows the that, like you said earlier, the consolidation and maybe a little bit of a regression within the industry.
Yeah, I mean, and of course we all know that some of the press hasn't helped us. Brad, you've been in the business for 16, 17 years, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Do either one of you guys remember back? See, this might be before your time. I'm not sure, but do you remember there was one convention that I think Huey Lewis and the News performed there, and another one, the Beach Boys. Did you guys remember those?
I saw the Beach Boys, and I saw Huey Lewis too.
Yeah, I think, Brad, that might have been just before you.
Right.
But I mean, that just shows you where the industry was at one time. But things have changed. I mean, and there is some, as we say, there ridiculous competition out there. There is, of course, a couple major national chains, and that's competition. And there is some competition, from some of the fitness centers that are around. But I got to tell you something. On the fitness centers, I just don't. I don't buy off on that being, any kind of a serious competition to us, because most of the time those fitness centers, they don't have people dedicated to tanning. You got to clean your own bed. They may only have a few beds. I realize that some of them have gotten more serious about it. But anyway, the point is that there is more competition. There was a time back, in JR's day, in my day, Brad's day, when you didn't have to be good. You just had to be open, because we were a destination retailer. And, of course, that's not quite the case anymore. So we've had, because of maybe some bad press and, thank you, Tan Mom, we've had somewhat of a decrease in tans and tanners. And, of course, what that means is that we have to be better at selling the people that we do have. The industry is starting to shake out what I call the hobbyists. Now, I wrote that word, and for the life of me, I could not get the spell check to accept it the way you see there, or with instead of the IE with a Y in there, and that didn't make any sense either. But so maybe hobbyist is the word that I made up. But what there was, and Brad and JR know this too, that there was a time when anybody that had some money either pay a franchise fee or buy some equipment and open up a tanning storefront, everybody kind of jumped into it. And so I think what we're seeing in this business, we're seeing a lot of people that are not serious, that were just in this for kind of a hobby or make some pin money, or they thought, Brad and JFR, I can say this, it was an easy business back then. And it's not easy anymore. I think you guys would agree.
Yes.
So, and the other problem was that there's been some kind of a mom and pop thinking at times. And what I say to new clients when they come in, if they are kind of a a mom and what I mean by mom and pop, by the way, does not mean a single salon necessarily. I've met some people that have fairly large regional chain that I think is still got that mom and pop thinking, and you got to get out of this. And I always ask the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you still want it to be a mom and pop, or do you want it to be a real business? And of course, you've got non-adapters. What does non-adapters mean? You've got people out there. Honest to God, I'll tell you, I won't tell you what state it's in, but there's a lady that owns 2 salons that absolutely will debate with me every minute of the day if I wanted to about it's not good business to expand her EFTs. And it's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm just real good at copying what works. And if you're not expanding your EFT or your membership business, you're nuts. So you got people out there that are non-adapters that don't want to adapt what is the new success model today. And I think going back to what I said earlier, there might at one time one of the problems that we had in this business is there was too much early success. It was the field of dreams business model. Build it and they will come. I knew salons, guys, and Brad and JR, I'm going to ask you if you ever saw this. Do you remember years ago when someone opened up a tanning salon? I mean, they wouldn't even bother to have a nice sign outside. To start with, they might take a 40-foot vinyl sign, a piece of vinyl that just said tanning, and slapped it up on the building. Do you guys ever remember seeing anything like that?
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that.
There was a guy, I don't know if you remember this, Brad, but there was a guy, it might be 20, 25 years ago now, I remember it. There was a guy that had 4 tanning beds in the back of his oil change shop. Honest to God, let's say it's Fred's Oil Change and Tanning Emporium,
Wow.
So there was a time when, you didn't have to really do much to sophisticate your business. And of course, another reason is we have some folks that have been in the business for a long time and they're strictly burnt out. When I look at Brad Blair's website and his emails and whatever, what's refreshing to me, Brad's not a 19-year-old kid. I'm not going to say how old he is because I don't honestly know, but I know he's not a kid anymore. But Brad, I love looking at your stuff because you still hit it with enthusiasm, and that's great. I mean, you've been around for a long time.
Thank you.
You ever feel that burnout, or do you just think this is something I love doing?
Sometimes you may get a little stressed here and there. That's normal, but then you just got to reflect and say, what's the bigger picture? There's a bigger picture more than just a single salon or 20, 30, 100 guests walking in the door, or you have your staff, the bigger picture, and then you have the pieces between the puzzle to create that bigger picture. Once you kind of focus and narrow that down, which takes time, it took me years. I'm thinking, I went in this as a mom and pop thinking, I'll get some beds, make some money, and go from there. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Even from the beginning it didn't, but then as time evaluated everything down the road, it just got, more of a constructive kind of work environment, and then targeting marketing, and salons popping up all over the place, and then you got to, make yourself different from everybody else. And you have to be all in it, 100%, 110%. If you're not there every day, then you may have checked out already.
Yeah, you make a good point there. Lee Iacocca, the famous chief executive officer or chairman of Chrysler from years ago when he turned Chrysler around, he said that the best fertilizer for a company was management's footsteps. In other words, being out there and being seen and being involved in it. And that's something I saw too, Brad, years ago, is that when the business was really taking off, I saw people that were, not making this up, with a lot of stores that were buying private airplanes and had 15,000 square foot homes with basketball courts and swimming pools in them. And I didn't see them reinvest a whole lot of money in their business. Maybe they just didn't have to. But you got some people, I think, that feel a little burnt out. And speaking of the burnout, Brad, is there something about this business at times that reinvigorates you? Is it getting a particular customer back, or is it seeing employees that you thought maybe were not the best in the world and they suddenly turn around, or is it seeing your salon's business turn around, your per customer average? I mean, What is it that gets you excited back again about this business?
I reevaluated my whole entire company, I could say the last 2 years, and I narrowed it down and focused on 3 elements, which was team, then you have your product services, and then you have your systems. Your team is your people behind the desk. That can make you or break you. That's basically your advocates, your followers, and you got to be the leader. If you can find a leader within that team, that's definitely awesome. Then you have your products and services. That's your beds. That's the brand of your company, your lotions, your tanning, your teeth whitening, red light therapy. You have to make sure you perfect that. And then you have your systems in place that are your guidelines and rules and tools to make all of the above happen. If you focus and narrow down what you have to really analyze and say, all right, I got to do A, B, C, and D to get to Z, because that's the thing. A lot of people say, I'm going to get to A and B. There's no such thing. That doesn't happen. It's really from B to Y. And I kind of focused on that element the last few years and really narrowing it down now, still to this day, 16 years later, still learning, an open mind. But averages is huge. You know, if you take the team, product, services, and systems, put them in place, your averages are going to go up, your numbers are going to go up, and you just got to stick with it. You can't give up. And try everything, because eventually your mistake will happen, and that mistake can be a fortune.
Well, I have to tell you, Mr. Blair, I'm almost ready to turn this whole webinar over to you, because the stuff you just said was fantastic. I mean, you know, from the people side of it, you know, what I've seen over the last 26 years of this business, the people that I've seen that failed, invariably, it is the first thing that you talked about was team, is that they've got people in trying to sell tanning that should never be selling tanning, or they've got, from the leadership point of view, they've got people trying to lead other people that shouldn't be leading people at a lemonade stand. I mean, they're just, I think there's more failures in this business because of the people issues than anything else. But you also, it was interesting, you mentioned systems, and there's 2 things about, I like what you said there, and you know, I'll say this, and I hope that people are on here believe me and believe Brad and JR. We've not really rehearsed much of anything, I mean, on this. I think probably because I've worked with you 2 guys, so I kind of know how you think, but we haven't rehearsed this. So when Brad said what he said, I said, oh man, this is perfect. I can really take off on this. But when you talk about systems and planning things, the whole subject of this webinar is, should I stay or should I go? Should I sell my business? Should I have an exit plan? Should I stay around or whatever? And it comes down to strategy. And you know, Brad, when you're talking about what you're doing and you set up A, B, C, D, it really, you know, any decision that you make, particularly one that is this huge, you got to have a strategy for this. You just can't wake up one morning and say, I want to walk away from this business. You have to really strategize it. So when I would see people, I would say back in November, they'd say, well, I don't know if maybe I'm going to get out of the business. My advice would always to them, stay in it through the peak season, because you'll ramp up your numbers, and you need to do that to impress a potential buyer. And who knows, if you do it right, you may you know, hold on to the business. But then also part of systems I kind of consider is what we use to monitor our customers, our transactions, and our employees. And speaking about that, I'm going to turn to JR here for a minute, because when we talk about what it is to avoid burnout, I had a momentous dinner with Mr. JR Homer here at Smart Tan, JR, about 2 years ago. And we were sitting there having dinner, and he was kind enough to invite me out with a group of people, and he paid for dinner, and I thought, well, geez, this is a pretty good deal. I mean, you know, your dad and I have been friends for years, but I really appreciate it. But what was kind of cool about it is there was a focus at dinner. I was curious about his level tan thing, and I think, you know, I guess what I saw in you that night when we talked, JR, was somebody, not necessarily that you were burnt out, but I saw some enthusiasm come into your eyeballs about this is something that you had created the year before, and you're still working at kind of busting it out. So I mentioned something like that as a way to avoid burnout for you.
It was, honestly, and it did kind of reinvigorate me. You know, I've been doing this since 2001, so, and, you know, that's actually retailing. You know, it wasn't a joke when you said my dad, you know, had video stores since basically 1979. And when I was 5 years old, he literally would have me, go to work with him, and I'd be putting away the movie rentals, that people would bring back and whatnot. And eventually I'd become like an assistant manager and a manager and whatnot. And he had a lot of stores at once. So, I kind of was been taught retailing. It's just in my blood. It's just what we know what to do. And, that's what a salon environment is. And in 2001, we started getting into salons, and my salons were no different than anybody else's. Right around 2011, 2012, we were hit a little bit, for multiple reasons, whether it be the economy or, tan mom, or just that, everyone seemed to be hit around the same time. And, I did lose a little bit of passion and excitement and kind of what made, what this industry and myself special. And then, seeing an opportunity and kind of reinvigorating myself with Level Tan and just the goal that I wanted to accomplish, it did, motivate me not to only accomplish that, but also to go back and look at my, my core business, which is Instatan, and kind of figure out ways to improve that. And I have, and the way I have, and one of the things, and Brad, by the way, Brad, I think everything you said was phenomenal, man, really straight up.
Thank you.
One of the things I really like too is that you said, get out and try new things, and keep be humble and keep trying new things. And that's the best piece of advice I think you gave, because that's what I did too. I went back and every person that would sign up with Level Tan, I'd try to learn something from them, and what would make their salon special and whatnot. And I incorporated a lot of their ideas into our locations. And again, we've been doing this for 15 years, and it kind of you can tell a difference in our stores the past couple of years as far as excitement and enjoyment, and even bringing back old customers that haven't been here for a while. And comparatively, I've had 3 competitors close in the past 3 years. So the burnout definitely happens. And honestly, I was probably burnt out for a couple of years until I had something remotivate me. But for sure, so.
Well, it's Jer, it's not uncommon. I mean, we all, and I think Brad made a mention of it, we all get burnt out at times. It happens, to me too, as a consultant, that I guess where I get burnt out sometimes is when I have to sit there on the phone and debate with somebody about, they've only got 10% of their revenues in EFT, and that they need to need to move ahead, and it's like I want to chew on my teeth because it's right there. I want to help them so bad, and yet you can only lead that horse to water. And what I want to do is take our conversation into the next part of it, getting away from why salons left the business. But when you're talking about maybe getting out of it, I want to say, please do yourself a favor and don't panic decide anything. Your tanning business, your employees, and your customers deserve a solid strategy to professionally market the sale of your salon, or the rebooting of it, to be more successful. And I think we have a lot of salons out there that need to be rebooted. So what I'm going to do right now, guys, is I'm going to show you 2. These are real salons. These are not pictures of salons, but I'm going to show you the numbers of 2 salons. Now, I get involved where I'll have a client call me and say, well, I'm thinking about buying this location here, and what do you think? Give me your judgment, what I should pay for it, whatever. And then I've had individuals, particularly at trade shows, that'll come up to me and say, okay, Mr. Know-it-all consultant, what do you think I should pay for this salon that's being sold? And Brad, you and I were talking before we got on live here about some of because you've bought salons, and some of the sale prices you've seen people come to you with, it was kind of unrealistic, shall we say?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we've looked at in the past. When we opened up our 3rd store, we were in the midst of purchasing a 4th store, and in that scenario already lawyers are in place, ready to sign and seal the deal, and we realized they did not have a CO, CO of occupancy, which is how you're supposed to legally run your business. Well, I'm not going to make it legally for their business because it should be already done. So we backed out of that, but then we looked at other salons and even the hair salons, all the things we looked at. It's the person that you're doing business with is one, whoever the salon owner is, and they could sit there and tell you that it does these numbers or these tanners, and my father's just too smart. He'll turn around and he'll knock it right in the head and show me your electric bill. And that's it. I mean, you want somebody to know business and how much business is being done. You show the electric bill, because that's really going to see, in tanning wise anyway, a tanning salon, And if you're in this that long, you can kind of justify how much business is being done by electric bill.
Well, I've never, to say the truth, Brad, I've never referred to the electric bill, but that's a good point. I'd never really thought of looking at it that way. I always look at the numbers that comes off their software, and of course I eventually have them sign an affidavit on it, so, if they're lying about it, then, that's a different story, but so that's interesting. I've never looked at the electric bill. That's
yeah. Well, we've been in a salon, and they show me their software, and they say X amount of dollars, but then they're hiding another X amount of dollars. So the software at that point was irrelevant, and they're being honest. But I can't I can't say I'm going to buy it for X amount of dollars when they want triple X amount of dollars, but they can't show that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very legal, mumbo jumbo stuff, but it is also simple.
Well, that's the legal mumble jumble stuff, and it's good stuff. I'm going to show you a salon that I kind of looked at the numbers stuff, and here's one that I looked at, and this is I'll call this is a 2-salon review, and this is the kind of the good one, and this is salon number 1, and they have 14 beds, 1 spray booth, and I don't remember what brand the spray booth was, but that's not important, and a custom airbrush. Now, when somebody comes to me and they say they don't have a spray booth but they have custom airbrush, I think custom airbrush is fine. But I think and both you and JR know this as well, that if you have custom airbrush but you don't have a spray booth, you're missing a lot of spray business, because custom airbrush may be a better quality bronze that you're going to get off it, and you can charge more money. And of course, it does have a labor component to it. More so than maybe a spray booth, but you got to have spray booth, and this salon does have that, and they've done well with their spray business. They've got a good location with ample egress and ingress along good parking. These are the things that I look at. I want to know how easily can you get in and get out. Does it have parking that can handle, particularly say 4 to 7 in the evening, early afternoon on Saturday, or do I have to walk 2 blocks to get there? What kind of anchors as far as retail stores to draw people to that general area? And this one has a Safeway, a grocery store, and a Walgreens right in the same parking lot area. I mean, it just, and of course, it's going to be reflected in the lease and what you're paying per square foot possibly. But I'd rather pay for quality location as I would rather pay for quality employees, and make sure I can take care of the business and, in the first place, get the business. Their last equipment purchased, I look at that too, was between 1 and 2 years ago when they added a couple beds. When I am dealing with somebody that wants to sell their location and they haven't bought a new bed for 7, 8 years, when I say new, I'm not necessarily talking brand new manufactured bed. It's new to the salon because, as you know, and matter of fact, JR, I'm going to ask you to comment on this, because JR does a fair amount of buying and selling of beds. He's a real good broker of that. And you know yourself, JR, that if you add a new bed or two, I mean, it's like, it's sometimes to some tanners, it's like Christmas. And the business...
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they want something, they want new bells and whistles. They want a new spaceship to get inside the tan.
Without a doubt. You add something new, you're guaranteed to get that. You'll have a segment of customers that will just try it because it's new. Hey, what is that? Or I want to try the new bed. And again, it doesn't have to be new. Tanning beds, if they're moved correctly, they look as good as when you take them out as you put them in. There's not much, now of course there is older beds out there that have wear and tear, but you can find very, very good condition beds, that are a portion of the cost of what you would pay. It's not uncommon, to honestly, with the current market, to find $20,000, $30,000 tanning beds that would be new, and you could pick them up, between $2,000 and $7,000, depending on how well maintained they are and whatnot. And it doesn't take much to make your money back on that. We've brought in, a bunch of new to us equipment, buying stuff used at different auctions or from different salons, clothing or whatnot. We swapped out some older equipment with the stuff that we brought in. We also created some new stuff like members only bed, where customers have to be an EFT member or a yearly member to actually use it, kind of incentivize them to use it, and then we charge them to use it as an upsell. We even do things, hey, if you want to try the new bed, buy this bottle of lotion for $110 or whatever you want to charge it. So the opportunity's out there definitely for used equipment. On the flip side, if you're looking at selling your salon, unfortunately, your equipment isn't worth what it used to be worth. So there's a double-edged sword of it. But the opportunity to upgrade your store is really out there, and it's very easy, and your customers will respond. So and it's pretty cool when you're able to post up on Facebook, hey, we got new equipment again.
Yep.
It means a lot to your customers as well as attract.
Well, you've seen it, JR, and I know Brad's seen it too. It's just amazing. You bring in, a couple new pieces, new to the salon. They might be newly manufactured, or they might be new that you got, like you said, almost brand new from the used market, whatever. And, I mean, it's no question. You'll start to see a spike, right away. And years ago, if you were thinking about what you want to do with your business, do I want to get out of the tanning business, or what's going to cost me to reinvigorate this business? And JR, you just threw out some numbers, $2,000 to $7,000 or whatever. I mean, we all know that some of these beds, brand new, as wonderful as they are, they can be very, very expensive. And sometimes for not that big of money, you could reinvigorate your customers' interest in your salons by not maybe necessarily investing that much money in some of this equipment. And I've seen it many times. This salon, as I was saying, they had purchased some equipment in the last 1 or 2 years, and I didn't go in for the purposes of this. I didn't go into a detail of what it was. I will say that one was a high-pressure bed, and another one probably I'd call it a level 2, level 3 bed. It was nice equipment, but this salon also had some competition, of course, which, who doesn't? It had 2 salons and a fitness center. The fitness center had 6 beds, and the 6 beds at the fitness center were 3 entry level, and I think 3 the next level up. And go back to what you had said, JR, not very well maintained. I thought the rooms that they were in looked kind of crappy, whatever. So, they had some competition, so it wasn't a total walk in the park. But this kind of a little bit of what they had, and here's some numbers for you to look at. Their 12-month revenue was $241,000. And the thing about if you're on this webinar right now and you're watching and listening to what the three of us crazy people are saying, you got to remind you that averages in our industry are strictly just a guide. I mean, averages in our business, I always say it's like having your head in the oven and your butt in the freezer, because really, what's the average? There's all over the board. There's numbers. I know salons that are over $800,000 a piece. Not that many anymore, but they are out there. And I know salons that are maybe doing $90,000 or $95,000 in a small market with 6 or 7 beds. But so it's all over. But this one has 14 beds, $241,000. Its prior year, as you can see, it at $222,000, so it had about an 8% increase. And ironically, its tans were up about 8%. Now, tans is it's kind of a weird thing we look at and we say, well, tans are down. And yeah, for the most part, tans are down. But what you'll see is when your EFTs are up, your tans are going to go up as well, just because you got more people on memberships that are using their visits to the salon more. And really, we can't just take tans and throw them out and say, well, okay, everybody's down on tans, or most everybody else, so let's not worry about it. Really, you want your tans up because it gives you more opportunities to sell that consumer either to a higher level or to an upgrade or to an upgraded level, or certainly to a lotion or other products or services that you have. So then you see EFT revenue, $92,000, or 38% of their gross, which is a good number. It's not an outstanding number, but it's still a good number. But their prior year was only 18% of their gross. They did about $75,000. So as a consultant, when I start to look at this stuff, I say, okay, I know the size of the market they're in, and I should have put that in there, forget the household count. But they have 14 beds, they got a spray booth, they got a custom airbrush, good location, ample parking, egress, ingress, they got good anchors. They do buy some new equipment. Yes, they do have some competition, because you got to factor that in there too. But if you look at their revenues are up 8%. Their EFTs are up. Their EFT membership. Now, here, EFT membership, high to low. And when I get done with these numbers, guys, I'm going to ask both Brad and JR to comment or whatever they want, if they want to comment or not. But on EFT membership high to low, meaning what I mean on that is that what I look at is that how much did they lose from their high point of membership to their lower. So let's say that their highest point of membership was in their June draw on their EFTs, and let's say their low was maybe September, October, maybe it was even toward the end of the year. It varies from market to market. But let's say that their high to low, they had lost about 20% of their EFTs. Everybody loses some of their EFTs. The prior year, they had lost 32%. So I look at that and I say, okay, they're getting better at managing their cancellations. That's important. And they're increasing their EFT revenue. And here's another one. The average EFT draw was $34 per member per month versus $27 the year before. So, I mean, that's also a good sign. And then their Lotion average, or for the 12 months, was $1.88. Now, I wasn't super impressed with the $1.88. I would like to have seen it in the 2.25 range, something like that. But you know one thing, and when you look at these numbers, JR and Brad, I'd like you to comment on this too. One thing I'm seeing this year among our clients is that we've had a super year as far as increasing EFTs, memberships, EFT draw. We're starting as we're getting into May here, and we're looking ahead for the Jason months. We're wondering about what are our cancellations going to look like this year, and it's something that we're doing more preaching to the employees, and we're monitoring, by the way, cancellations as a ratio of their transactions to see who is allowing more cancellations as opposed to freezes and that kind of thing. But the one thing I've seen this year, Brad and JR, that kind of concerns me is that we know that with client base, and particularly you look at this salon here, we know that their TANs are up and most of their business is up, that we're seeing their Lotion average kind of stodgy. But so when I saw this from this prospective retail location that one of my clients wanted to buy, I wasn't super panicked, but I said to myself, well, you know what, their EFTs is going in the right direction. They're allowing less cancels. Their draw is going up, but boy, they've got an opportunity here with Lotions to increase them. So I'm going to shut up here for a minute. Brad, weigh in on what you see here. If you saw this salon, would this be something, and I'm not saying how much my client ended up paying for this salon, but is this, if you looked at these kind of numbers, would this be something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, it looks decent. It would also, depending, I would have to see. As you said, the location looks good. Numbers-wise, it seems, if all the numbers jive, it looks good. The value of the salon, though, also, it all depends how many clients are coming in, and then, there's a couple of the averages I think would have to be looked at. I'm really, really big on per person average, per client average, PPA.
You're talking about annual PCA.
Yeah, or individually for your employees, just structurally how the team is already working or how the business is already functioning, and what's the reason why they're selling. If something like this is an increase on many avenues, I mean, your Lotion, you could always bring that up. There's a couple easy things you could do, but why are they selling if it's something like this?
Yeah, well, what this was, and that's a good question. What you had is there was a death in the family, and the wife is the person that died, and the husband is older than she was and didn't have a daughter or a son that knew much about business in general, and he was just afraid that giving it to them or let them run it, and by the way, after knowing what's going on with them, his judgment was right. I think if it had been given to one of them, I don't think the business would have done well. So that was the particulars in this. And you know what, Brad? I feel like a dummy. I don't know why. I preach PCA all the time. Why the devil I did not put PCA on this? And I've got it here in my notes somewhere. And I think it was the year before, it was $105 PCA, and I believe it's $121 now. So they're
125. They consider 125 like a superstore, which is really strong, and that's good. I mean, those are good numbers.
Yeah, and I, Brad, I'm glad you pointed that out because I forgot to mention that. JR, your thoughts if you looked at this store?
I like where the EFTs are at, you know, increasing and then also decreasing into the cancels. I think that's the right path to go on. And, you know, EFTs is that's where we, you know, focus a lot of our time and whatnot. So if I was going to purchase a store and they already had established EFTs and whatnot, something to build upon, and it's going the correct way, that would make that store more appetizing to me, for myself.
Well, and you know, and here's the point, guys, and this is the whole thing. People are on this because they want to know, should I sell my salon? And I think what I'm trying to point out is that unless you have somebody that comes along to buy your salon, if you want to sell it, and they don't know anything about the business, then maybe you can sell them whatever you want to sell them at whatever price you want. But I think chances are what I've seen over the last couple of years is that people that get into this business now have done more homework than people used to do and know something about the business or have gotten some education from one of us or, you know, whoever, and they're going to look at those numbers. And so I guess the message from the webinar today is that, you know, instead of thinking about an exit plan, maybe you should think about, how do I ramp up my business? Because if you want to sell your business, someone's going to look at the numbers. I mean, you know, somebody comes to me and says, well, look, I've got an opportunity. I can buy 12 stores, you know, or one store. I'm going to look at those numbers. And you guys have talked about the EFTs, and Brad mentioned the PCA, and the LPPA is on there, whatever. This is all the stuff I'm looking at when I'm analyzing a possible deal. Because to me, EFTs, and I think both you guys agree, EFTs is kind of that's the gold standard. If you're looking at high turnover in EFTs and you're looking at a low percentage of gross revenues in EFTs, it does not tell me that you've got a stable customer base. And really, and you know, you alluded to it before, JR, when you said you can't get the money out of tanning beds that you used to be able to get if you were going to sell them. And with all apologies to the supply side of this business, you know, that's the truth. You can't get the same kind of money that you used to get 8-9 years ago out of these beds. And so when I'm evaluating a business, I look not exclusively at EFTs. I look at a lot of things, as you can see on the screen here. But boy, I'll tell you, EFTs is a big one. And Brad, I appreciate you reminding me about PCA, because that's huge.
No problem.
It is. It's just huge. Okay, so let me show you a different store here. And see, now for you guys, by the way, I know your volumes are north of what we're looking here on the screen. So I got to ask you to kind of adjust yourself down here, because really the average salon in our industry is probably, it's not what you guys are doing. And certainly not, Jer, what you do at Robinson, or Brad, what you did at your initial store, I think, or is a store number 2 that does so well. I can't remember. But anyway, so when you look at this, remember that there are a lot of people that are way under this business that might be doing 150 or 160. And here was one that was doing considerably less, salon number 2, 14 beds. Again, I took it because the same number of beds. They did not have spray tanning, which I kind of lectured about before. They have a custom airbrush, which is fine, you know, but you really need that booth spray. They have leg tanners, which, now to me, I'm opinionated here because this is all I do. If you're going to have a room, I think I'd rather have another bed or have a spray booth as opposed to a whole room for a leg tanner. But you know, if you got a store or a salon the size of Robinson, which JR's got, you've got rooms for people. You can do teeth work in there like he does. I mean, you've got rooms for everything because it's an enormous salon. And again, if you get a chance, look at JR's video on sunbizweekly.com. But they've got an aqua massage, red light. You know, I don't want to get into red light. I'm not a real strong fan of red light. But I mean, if you can get people to keep coming back to do it, great. God bless you. That's terrific. Anyway, here's the salon review. It's a setback location with marginal egress, ingress. Parking is shared with 4 smaller retail outlets with half reserved parking slots. Half of the parking slots are reserved. Poor exterior signage. Their anchor retail is a takeout Chinese restaurant and a Subway sandwich shop. Nothing wrong with Subway sandwich, but it doesn't get you the kind of traffic that other anchors get. And, you know, hey, not everybody can afford that kind of rent and the kind of center that we had in the first store. And the last equipment they purchased was, they purchased one at 5 years ago and another one at 8 years ago. And again, this isn't necessarily a direct indication, but it says to me how much invested are they really in this business now and keeping it going. And they do have some competition for tanning salons within 3 to 4 miles. So those are some of the things that you consider. And then let's look at their numbers. Their 12-month revenue was $178,000. Prior year, $197,000. Now there's a red flag, down 9.6%. And by the way, I don't have it on there again, Brad, but their PCA was 97.50, and I think this last year that we went down to 178,000, I think it was something like 85 or whatever. So again, these are red flags, and for you that might be thinking about a plan, again, the lecture I'm making here, you got to have some good numbers unless you find a buyer that doesn't know anything, about what they're doing. Their 12-month TANs down 21%. It's not unusual to be down in TANs, but 21% is a big decline. Their unique customers were down 9%. That's also not a good sign. Their PCA, flat at $90. Never mind. I'm thinking of too many salons here. So they didn't grow their PCA. They stayed flat. EFT revenue, $25,000, 14% of gross. It was $20,000 prior year, or 10.2% of gross. So their EFTs went up slightly, but not that much, particularly when you look at it as a percent of gross. Their high to low membership, they've lost 39% of their EFTs last year. The year before they lost 37%. So now their loss of EFT membership is actually going up a little bit. That's not good. And their average draw has gone down. And of course their LPA average is pretty bad at $1.09. So JR, Brad commented on it first last time. What's your thoughts when you look at this?
I'd be concerned about buying this place.
Well, unless they were, unless it was in a market you were already in and they wanted $20,000 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's not much promising with this one. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'd be really concerned. The fact that the equipment's old, the fact that there's really no spray booth, the fact that there's, less money being brought in, less tanners at a great rate. It seems like this one has a lot of challenges to overcome. I mean, I would honestly pass on this. If I would go after it, I would definitely make sure that the power was there. A lot of times with three-phase and whatnot, you can upgrade, but I'd be very concerned about purchasing a salon with the you have right there with like the criteria.
Well, you make a good point about the power, by the way, and I didn't put that on here because there's so many more details about this one I could put on there. They did have the right power in place, and because, as you know, the bigger beds, man, you got to have a lot of juice. And
right.
They did have the power in place, but they obviously didn't do anything as far as investing in the beds to use that power. Brad, any thoughts on your mind when you look at this?
It doesn't look that great, but hey, if they threw out a number to me, because me looking at the 4 salons that I was looking into, I mean, I was going to steal the place because they just were not into it. It was run down. They basically were burnt out and were not having fun. They're not into it.
Yep.
Not, if they came across and say, here you go, like you said, $25,000, I could jump on that, redo all 14 rooms, repaint it, revamp it in 36 hours, be good to go. But you got to be ready for that. I mean, that's a big move and a big jump, but you got to know what you're doing. And if you're into it, such as I am, devoted, dedicated 100%, emotionally, physically, mentally, 24/7. I mean, I could look at these numbers, and it won't mean anything to me. If I look at the area and it looks okay, look at the building, the lease, obviously, we don't know what the lease is entailing, but if it all looked okay, and you could steal it and then make another option for more revenue and another salon, or, who knows, you could be a hair salon or something other, diverse a little bit.
Well, you mentioned lease, and again, there's so many details that I could put in here, but the lease on this salon was not bad. There was 2 years left on it. The cams were okay, but it's funny. The maintenance of this one was pretty bad. I mean, the parking lot, whatever, it was. Landlord wasn't doing crap for this center, and it was and that's one of the things that kind of turned me off, because the other retailers that were in there, the Chinese restaurant and the sandwich shop, just did not look good. And but like you said, Brad, and this is what happens sometimes. If you can basically steal a shop that you, or a salon that you feel that by putting some energies into this and reinvigorating it, you could turn this around. So if that 12-month revenue, if you could get that baby up to 250 by, you know, in a year and a half or whatever, because of, like you said, putting some paint in there, putting some new beds, buying the JR way, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it might be worth it. Each one is a separate, you know, there's no model to tell everybody on this call what it is that you necessarily have to have, or what people are going to be necessarily looking at. You said also, Brad, you'd be looking at the area. Matter of fact, if the area was decent and it wasn't going to be too parasitic on your other locations, and you could get it for the right price, you take it. But
right. I mean, well, one thing you look at here also in this format, it says some competition. There's 4 other tanning salons in 3 or 4 miles.
Right.
How long are they open? How are they in business? What are they doing? If they're in business, I'll open up, you know, down the road, obviously not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, and run business. And you could earn that clientele. I mean, my salons, you know, close by, we have 4 or 5 salons. We have a Planet Fitness. We have them all. I don't mind the competition. I love it. It just feeds me to be like, okay, well, then there is more revenue to be made in this area. You may have a decrease here and there, and it's going to happen. That's normal. But our demographic of clientele that goes to tanning salons already have visited the 3 other 4 around your area. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
And you have to understand what can you do to try to keep them a little bit longer. And it just goes into remodeling your systems and your business.
Well, what it might be interesting for you, Brad, and if this was anywhere near your markets, is that these 4 tanning salons, 2 of them were really bad, really bad. One was using a customer card system, didn't even have a POS.
Wow.
Yeah, just blows my mind. The other 2 were at that extreme of 4 miles, but I had kind of a strange feeling on this one too, that this could fit in with the client's mode of operation, their marketing area, and if it could be bought right. And we're still negotiating on this one, by the way. So let's, and moving on, just to kind of summarize things up here, there are various options for your business to sell or stay. And of course, you could close tomorrow if you wanted to. You could close end of year 2016. You could close end of year 2016 peak season. Or is relocation a possibility? Well, we know that relocation has certain risks with it. You might not keep all the customer base you want to keep. Of course, paying that electrical, if it's not in there, is like horrendous. Or should you build your business to be more marketable end of year 2016, or build your business to increase and hold on to market share in 2017? Now, I don't think anybody that's going to be on this call is going to take away from Brad, JR, or myself anything but optimism about forward in our business. Are we discouraged about some of the FDA stuff and some of that garbage that goes on, and some of the slings and arrows that have been thrown our way? Yes, but you don't see any of us getting out of the business, tomorrow. I think what it is, if you want to get out, let's say that you're an elderly couple and you've been in the business for a while and you just want to sell off your salons because you want to go to your golden years or whatever, not run tanning salons. The best way to do it is to build up your numbers, and peak season, of course, is the time to do it, which unfortunately we're getting late in the peak season here, but and then build up your numbers for the whole year. I mean, if you build up your EFTs, then when you get into the last 6 months of this year, when your business maybe was particularly soft, and those EFTs bring you in incremental income, it's going to make your numbers look good. And that's, boy, I tell you, if you're on the other side and you're selling to somebody and they've got John Farr as a consultant, that's what I'm going to look at, is those numbers. Those numbers are really important to me. And of course, other considerations, your lease, do you own the property? Brad brought it up before. Leases are very important. We're going to, by the way, on Biz Weekly, another webinar we want to have is negotiating leases. I hope to pull it off sometime the next month or 2, but we haven't gotten it put together yet. And then, of course, the change of location, mentioned that before. Now, staff, if you're going to buy or you're going to sell, You want to look at the staff. Are they an asset or a liability? And you guys, I'm telling you, I don't buy a lot of beds. I don't buy beds like JR does. I don't open new stores like Brad has been doing. But the one thing I am involved with personally is human resource side around the country. And I got to tell you, that staff is, you can do all the other stuff in the world, but boy, if that staff isn't right. And of course, your equipment aging, we talked about that before, your competition, your marketing to advance the cause of your salon business. If you're not marketing, it's crazy because you're not going to get your consumers engaged, and you want to engage yourself or re-engage yourself. And if you can't engage or re-engage yourself, then try to get whatever you can out of the business, because the best thing to do is to pump that business up. And lastly, if you want to turn your salons around, don't wait until the end of the peak season to do so. I can guide you with new employee productivity and better HR practices, increasing your PSAs, UFT sales, all the good stuff. And I love doing it. I've been doing it for a lot of years. All right, let's go to some questions here, guys, because I think we have a garbage load of questions. My apologies to people for taking this long to get to them, and I'm going to pull them up right now. Questions. We have questions. So let's go. I'm going to start. Sorry to make some of you wait. Jessica from Universal Insurance, thank you for joining us. It's been almost an hour since you commented, but glad to have you here. Okay, Michelle. Michelle says, okay, Brad and JR, here's a question. Michelle said, I worked for a salon for many years that we were forced to do 2 and 3 deposits per day of at least $3,000. Oh, my God. Oh, jeez. Listen to this, guys. Listen to this. You think, gee, it's a nice problem to have, but it's also a very dangerous problem. We were forced to do 2 or 3 deposits per day of at least $3,000, so we didn't have so much money in the store. I think Michelle is referring to the good old days. And, that's, if you're taking in that kind of money, obviously you do want to do your deposits and do them often. I won't go into this, but JR probably remembers this. JR, do you remember back in 1996, which I know is a few years ago, the Hollywood murders out in Albuquerque, New Mexico? It was Hollywood Video. Do you remember the people that were killed out there in a robbery? Do you remember? It was all over the video trade magazines at the time.
I honestly forget that.
Okay.
A little bit.
Well, I won't go into it because, and what does it have to do with tanning? Well, we have had robberies in tanning. We had some a couple of years ago. We had 2 at the same chain up in Buffalo, New York. So it does happen, and your employees do need to be trained on what to do if they have someone come in and stick a gun in their face or a knife or whatever. But let me move to something that's more apropos here. Brad, here's Charlie. I won't say his last name because I'll probably massacre it. He wants to know, is red light therapy a good plus to my business?
No. I'm going to say no. We have 2 units, and it doesn't really move. We have to our basic profit off of that is the product. We sell the product to do the red light therapy to make money off of it. You kind of got to give it away. It's just an extra perk. The people that like it, they love it. It's just a very small demographic. I wouldn't get into it. Do teeth whitening. Teeth whitening is just huge. Yeah. Huge. It's so big.
Well, I happen to agree with you on red light. I mean, to me, red light is just, I mean, it could work, but you have to get the customer to actually use it. And, if they don't use it, I mean, with tanning, you go and you get in a bed 3 times, you're starting to see some color. Red light therapy, it's a leap of faith. And I know for those people,
yeah, 8 to 12 sessions is minimum, and you got to kind of keep up with it a little bit. And then you have, the products, they work well. It's really not a huge investment I would do ever again.
Well, it's not an investment in the rooms. I mean, some salons only got so much size. Now, in Robinson, JR's big store, which is an enormous store, you've got red light in there too, don't you, JR?
Yeah, we have the Lumiere, and then we have like a stand-up tower that we converted with red lights, and we put a vibration plate, basically mimicking a beauty angel. But just like Brad said, I mean, there's better investments to be made. I bought the Lumiere probably
That's what I have, the Lumiere.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm probably still trying to make my money back if you just add
Yep.
the packages. There's, like Brad said, he's 100% right. There's a little bit of money made in the product for sure. The science works and whatnot, but the problem is, people don't want to do it. You have to do it, just like you said, 12 times, the first, month really to, get some results, and after that, you have to continue to do it. And it's just, the general public really doesn't want to have to do that. There are, a small segment of people that once they do it, they stick on it forever, and they're great customers, so they always come and they always pay, and they always pay, and they always do buy the lotions. But yeah, teeth whitening is a much better investment. Lipolite is a much better investment. Fit Body Wraps is a much better investment. There's more money to be made there than with Red Light as of right now, or at least what we found.
Well, next questioner, guys. Thanks for your participation on that, because I happen to agree with both of you. I'm not a giant fan of Red Light. I think it's a waste of space and a waste of money. And there's just things you can get a better return on. Here's Tyler, who is saying, he said, I have 2 locations that are about 45 minutes from each other. I have a competitor that called me. See if I got this right. I have a competitor that called me that owns a massive franchise in the area. He says that Palm Beach and Suntan City, boy, I love it when we have these webinars and we can throw out specific names. That is,
Good call.
I'm waiting for something to jump up and slap me here. Massive franchise in the area. He says that Palm Beach and Suntan City have asked him to transition his franchise into their salon. Let's see. Let me just, here. I have 2 locations that are about 45 minutes away from each other. I have a competitor that called me that owns a massive franchise in the area. He says that Palm Beach, a massive franchise, but it sounds like it's not Palm Beach or Suntan City. Anyway, he says that Palm Beach and Suntan City have asked him to transition his franchise into their salon. Okay, I've seen this before. I've seen something similar to this before. They currently don't have locations in the area. He offered to purchase my salon for 60 to 70% of the annual amount of my EFT draft. There you go. I mean, that's what, I think the smart people are looking at, is the EFT draft. Obviously, I'm not doing this. I'm not talking about, he's talking about the 60 to 70%. Obviously, I'm not doing this. I have a 19-room salon with all, here we go again, more names, Ergoline Equipment, Norvell, Versus Spa, and Fit Body Wrap. My question is he is he just blowing I think it's Tyler, I think you misspelled there. I think you wanted to say smoke. So is he just blowing smoke, or are these 2 larger franchises really talking to him? Well, I don't know, Tyler, if they are or not. And certainly we do know people in this business that blow smoke every day, so we're not sure here. But Tyler goes on to say, also he mentioned interest in my other location. It is just myself and one other franchise in the area. It's a town of about 15,000. Is this something I should be concerned about? Okay. All right, guys, Brad and JR, let me, kind of boil this down. Okay, so it's a town of 15,000. He's got a location there. This person has called and wants to have him go transfer into his franchise because Palm Beach and Suntan City are interested in that market. I mean, okay, so how do you react? JR, how do you react? Because I can tell you how I react to this, but go ahead, JR. How do you react to it?
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm like, who cares? I guess. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but I would. I mean, if there's rumors of Suntan City or Palm Beach coming in, okay, aligning yourself with this other franchise really isn't gonna. I don't see how it could benefit you. I mean, I don't know. That's just me. I don't know. I honestly don't know how to react. Honestly.
I'll give you an example of what you just said, Jared, because I think the secret, Tyler, is when you said it's 19,000. I've got a client in a market that their total draw in their marketing area is about, they're the county seat, and I think it's a little over 40,000, 45,000, whatever. Suntan City's been talking about going into that market for 4 years, and they tried to, somebody, I don't know if they directly represented Suntan City or a franchisee or whatever, tried to intimidate my client into becoming a franchisee of Suntan City because they said Suntan City is coming there. Now, there was a time, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when the growth of company-owned stores by these big chains was something to be concerned about. But my impression, and I'll let Brad comment on this first, but my impression is these two big chains now, the way they're growing or growing their brand across the country is through franchising, and certainly not with stores that are new, built-up stores. And I don't see them going to a market with 19,000 people.
Yeah, me neither. Like, I totally agree with you there.
Brad, any thoughts you have there?
I wouldn't waste my time. I'd mind my own business, and
Exactly.
I would just run my own business, work your salon, and I mean, if you wanted to, you could strategize, which I like to do with any salon. Let me see your salon. What's your salon about? Go in there, see what it's like, just to get more knowledge and information about a type of big franchise, just for your own purpose. Not that you could maybe utilize it or whatnot, but just to grow up within the industry. But worry about your own path and just keep going. That's it. They're obviously doing it for a reason, and it could be whether they want to buy you or not, but they're probably scared of you or the competition. I like to say that phrase, but
Yeah. Okay, and we're kind of running late here. We've got lots of questions. Let me see if I can't. Michelle wants to say, when you're looking at the high-low, is that taking in of EFTs, consideration of the new ones? Yeah, what that is, Michelle, it's very simple. It's at what point was your highest EFT membership numbers, numbers of individual unique members, and what's your lowest? And really, it's not necessarily pointing to a specific point on the calendar, but just what was during the 12 months, how many was the total number of EFT members you had at one time, what was the lowest, and does that mean, yes, you've added some and you've canceled some? And really just make it simplistic, what's your high, what's your low, and that's the way I look at it. I try to keep it as, I think more for me than anything else, I try to keep it simple. Here's Lori, and here I'll turn this to you guys. This is an interesting question. Do you have an opinion on the Cocoon, assuming there are plenty of tanning rooms and spray rooms already in use at the salon?
I'm just going to say no. That's all. I mean, it's like another red light therapy to me. I mean, it may work in another area, but I don't know. I'm not a fan. It's pretty cool. Looks cool. I mean, but you got to get somebody in there. Like, JR said it. You're going to have those particular clients that they love it, they'll do it, but it's very minimal on your demographic of who's going to probably do it.
Yeah. JR, thoughts?
It is very similar. You can make anything successful. Pretty much whatever you push, you eat, you promote, you market will become successful. But stuff like the Cocoon, stuff like red light therapy, stuff like, that requires almost like a full-time dedication to marketing, a full-time dedication to education, a full-time dedication to sell it, to truly like make it worthwhile. No one is going to come to your tanning salon and walk into your salon and say, hey, I want to use the Cocoon. That means you have to basically sell that product to everybody that walks through the door and educate them on it, promote them on it, get them through it, give it away for free for them to use it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that takes a dedication on your end. So, it's up to you. You can make anything successful, but it requires a lot of work.
Well, you've just made a very good point, JR. You're right. I happen to agree with both you and Brad on both the Cocoon and red light. And what was that thing that we had years ago, the hydro massage or whatever the hell that was? It had another name to it. God, everybody. What's that?
There's a spa capsule, and then there is a hydro. It's called, there's one called a spa capsule, and there's one called a hydro massage.
It's probably hydro massage I'm thinking of. I mean, if you took all the hydro massages that people have bought that they didn't get their money back on, you could build an enormous warehouse to hold them. I mean, but I think your point's really well taken, Jared. You can make anything successful if you want, but then the question becomes, at what price? If you make that a success, are you taking away from your people selling? our bread and butter, and frankly, our bread and butter to start with is UV tanning. And then from there, of course, spray has become a real good hero. But, why take away? I mean, because right now, what I've seen, or particularly the last few years, there's a lot of salons that don't do as good a job as they should on selling UV tanning and lotions and spray, let alone get into something like, you said, the Cocoon. So here's one. I'm going to put this out to both you and Brad. Danielle is asking, when updating your beds, should you do it level by level or all at once? Okay, for the $64,000 question, Brad, what do you think?
I would say you could do level by level, but it depends. If you got an extra $200,000 and you want to, revamp all your beds, depending on how many beds you got, so be it. Go ahead. But I would probably do one by one, and I would do it every 2 to 3 months, and I would make that marketing last almost about a year and a half, 2 years. And this way, your salon's consistently getting new equipment, and then everyone's going to be like, when's the new piece coming in? You have 8 to 12 months, to work with. I'm saying if you're going to do like a 6-bed store, one of my stores is 6 beds, and that took me 2 years to do. But I consistently was showing that I'm getting new beds. And at the same time, adjust your pricing early before you adjust your equipment. That's my preference. I would do that also. This way you're prepared when you have that new equipment in. Your pricing's already set, structured, because you're revamping into a newer, bigger, better salon.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Let me, JR mentioned teeth whitening before. Lori asked, she said, do you have a teeth whitening system that you would recommend? JR?
I do, yeah.
There's a bunch. There's
ahead.
a bunch. Honestly, you can find like the LED teeth. Just do some shopping. Find really any LED teeth whitening device out there. They're all very similar, to be honest with you. But we use bleach spray as far as the actual solution that you put in the teeth whitening, etc. Is who we
Same
use.
here,
But
bleach spray.
there's a bunch of devices out there. I would honestly shop around and just find one that's affordable.
Okay, let me go to Abby here. Abby asked, this is an interesting question, and I'll jump in on this one myself, guys. How does the intensity of your seasonality change when you implement EFT? Well, Abby, I'm going to assume when you implement EFT that you don't have EFT, and I think myself and my guest panelist here will strongly and dramatically and passionately and ferociously suggest you got to get EFT, Abby. You got to get into it, and you need to do it ASAP. But you said, how's the intensity of your seasonality change? One of the things that we see, and everybody has to be prepared for this, is that when you get into EFT and you get into the peak season, you're going to see that what you were selling in 30-day packages or session packages, you're converting a lot of those people to EFT. So your retail on that, what you're taking in, non-member fees, non-member, non-draws, whatever, when you were selling 30 days or 10 session packages, that volume is going to go down. And when you sell that at that particular month, your volume or your retail usually is going to be higher on selling a 30-day package than it is in selling an EFT. But what you're looking for is the annuity factor. Just a second here, guys. Jeez. Got to turn off the phone. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, aren't we glad that John didn't turn his phone off? Okay, so anyway, what happens here, guys, is that, or Abby, is that when you start to sell EFTs, you'll see how your EFTs will sell in February and March, and when you get done with the first quarter, you may look at it and say, I'm not sure that my revenue is the same as I had last year when I was selling 30-day and 10-session packages because I was making more money up front. But when you look at the annuity factor and you get into April, May, and June, you're going to see that you're going to have a whole lot more money for the peak season than what you had before. And even more dramatically, when you get into the last 6 months of the year, you're going to be taking in money that you can't take in because you don't have people coming in off buying those retail packages of 30-day. I don't know if, what I just said, JR, did that make any sense, what I was mumbling there?
It made a lot of sense. If I can simplify,
yes, you jump in.
Yeah, through the years, I've heard a lot of people, we've always done EFTs, just FYI, from day one. But through the years, I've, come in contact with a lot of salon owners who come, I don't know if I should do EFTs, I don't know if I should do EFTs. I've come across a lot of them. But I've never come across one salon owner who said, I implemented EFTs and I'm sorry that I did.
Yeah, correct.
That's all.
Correct. Yeah, it does, Abby, it does change somewhat the seasonality, but still, I mean, you're going to find that, even though the last 6 months of the year is just, typically, by the way, you're going to do about 65% of your revenues in the first 6 months of the year, 35% of your revenues in the second 6 months. Now, but I think what a lot of people do is they just give up on the second 6 months and say, well, I'll take what I get. I know Brad doesn't. I know JR doesn't. I know my clients don't. So, it's if you have EFTs, you're going to see monies in that, that's particularly that nasty third quarter of July, August, September that you haven't seen before. Brad, any comments you want to make on that?
For the first, I could say, probably 5-6 years of business, I did not have EFTs, and it was the worst mistake that I've learned in 16, 17 years of business. Get EFTs. It's definitely worth it. It also makes it more fun because you have a lot more playroom for specials, and you have consistent clients throughout the year. It's definitely the way to go. EFTs is it.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'm gonna, I don't want to end it on this note, but I'm gonna add. Here's Lisa is asking, what is the best way to sell off your beds when you decide to close? We found with older beds, there's not much of a market for them. I know, Jer, that you're more actively involved in buying and selling beds. You want to comment on that best way to sell off your beds if you decide to close?
Well, the best thing to do is actually try to sell before you close. Like, when you put a bed in storage, that's actually going to decrease the value. So if you can sell it before, when you still have electricity to it, try to do it then. There's Craigslist. Everyone always shops on Craigslist. There's some Facebook sites. There's like Tanning Salon Auction, Tanning Salon or used tanning equipment auction. There's buy, sell, tanning owners, equipment. So that's pretty much the best way. But you can always call around to the local salons. It's a lot easier to buy and sell to a salon maybe within an hour or a couple hours of you versus someone across the country. So some good door-to-door knocking to your neighbors. Say, hey, I got some tanning beds to sell. Put it on there. Put it on Craigslist. You'll find some. You'll find salon owners, and you'll also find some. Just private homeowners who want tanning beds. But that would be my only suggestions.
Well, I think what we want to end this webinar on is the fact that really, if you want to get the most value out of your, really, I hate to say it this way, but the most value you get out of your salon today, it is concentrate on making it more successful than the thought about how can I get out of this and maximize the amount of money I get out of it. Because really, and really, this is not, as they say, rocket science. I'll go back to what Brad said, and I know Jared said it right from the very beginning, is that EFTs is irreplaceable. EFTs and a staff and a system, as Brad talked about, so, Lisa, I wish I could give you more encouraging words about your used equipment. I just don't know where I can find them any encouraging words on it. But what I'd say to everybody else is, stay in the business to make it a success, because then if you want to sell it, you've got numbers and you've got systems and you've got a track record that you can show everybody else. And I want to thank both Brad and JR for being on here today. And I'm sorry we went kind of late, as John Farr likes to do. I want to remind everybody, too, if you are a Vault member, you can get my free book. My book, The Game Changer, is in there. And after we get done here and we sign off, there will be a poll, and would love to have you guys fill out the poll and give us some information back so I can send all of your nasty comments to Brad and to JR, because obviously you won't say anything nasty about me, but anyway, so I wish you would stay on. Brad, you've been wonderful as always.
Thank you.
You really know what the hell you're doing, and I really appreciate you being on today.
Thank you.
I still like that best picture of you with the wig on. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I was trying to look at my girlfriend. It didn't work too much, but I tried.
and JR, I thank you for being on, and if anybody wants to know about JR, he can bench press a Volkswagen, so, you can disagree with me, but don't disagree with JR. So, JR, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Guys, have a good one, people. Let us know what you think, and we'll be back to you again with another webinar in the very near future. So have a good evening.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.